Are you ready to get started, Sarah?
I am. Ready? You guys are.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mariano's Meetups. I'm Sarah Lutz, and I'm a member of the Mariano's team. Thanks for joining today. During this crucial time of social distancing and sheltering in place, we've launched this online platform for all of us to get together for cooking classes, wine tastings, mixology sessions, live Chicago-style music, and more. Today, we're celebrating Meatless Monday with Sarah Baker, aka The Balanced Babe. Sarah is a certified nutrition and holistic health coach and has just written the Vegetarian Cookbook for teens. She will be making a recipe from her new book, and she will be also making a recipe featured from the current issue of Mariano's magazine, which is in stores now and available online. The chat button is open for questions, just right in the middle there, and comments that you can ask during any time of the class. Please remember to be kind. Everyone will be on mute during this class, but you can use the chat button at the bottom of the screen again to ask any questions or add any comments. Also, this class will be recorded, so if you don't want to be recorded, just make sure to take yourself off of camera. And I'm going to throw it over to Sarah so she can get started cooking.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for the intro, Sarah. We've got like the Sarah 2.0 show going on here with both of us.
Right.
But anyways, thanks guys for joining. We're all really excited to have you, and I'm really excited because it's been a little minute since I've done a cooking class, and I've been missing the connection before all this craziness has happened. So it's really great to connect with you guys virtually and show you how to cook some vegetarian meals. So I believe you have a little bit of info on what we're going to be making today, but I'm going to start off with our salad. Now, both of these recipes are really easy. They're for beginners. They're not too complicated, and they're both really great for summer because summer is coming up and we're all hopefully soon going to be outside grilling, having fun, having family parties, hopefully once again. So the first little salad here that I'm going to make is from my cookbook, Vegetarian Cookbook for Teens. Even though it has the word teen in it, it's really for anybody that wants to cook more vegetarian meals. There's 100 recipes in there, so really awesome ways to get started by just adding more plants into your diet, and you don't have to be vegetarian. But this first salad is a mandarin orange salad with mixed greens, some slivered almonds, some feta cheese, and a nice simple dressing. So to get started, what you will want is about 6 cups of mixed greens. So I already pre-measured them. And guys, a lot of times when I am making meals or I'm using recipes, I'm very intuitive with my measurements. I don't always follow recipes like by the teaspoon, unless it's baking, of course, because that requires a little bit more chemistry. But the fun thing about cooking is that you can just follow your taste buds, and you can add a little bit more of this spice or a little bit less of this spice, and you don't always have to follow by the rules and do all measurements. Because for some, if you're semi-new to cooking, especially with plants, reading recipes with like 10 different measurements and all these different metrics can seem a little bit intimidating, but really it's just like a sprinkle here, a dash here. So I have the measurements in your recipes, but I'm gonna eyeball some of these things just to show you how you can intuitively make easy recipes for yourself as well. So we're starting with about 6 cups of these mixed greens. I love mixed greens because they're very versatile. They don't really have a strong bitter flavor like kale would be, where you have to kind of massage that to get some of the bitterness out. But if you don't have mixed greens on hand, you can also use spinach, which is another favorite dark leafy green of mine. And spinach is actually super, super high in antioxidants. It's one of the highest sources of antioxidants. So the more spinach you can eat, the better. So we start with this as your base, and then very simple, guys. We're gonna throw about a 1/4 cup, or what do I have here? Let's do a little recipe here. Actually 1 cup of almonds, because this is going to feed 4. And then another thing here about serving sizes is that a lot of salads, the way they're like traditionally made to be served in like cookbooks and whatnot, is as side salad. So when you kind of divvy this out, you're like, oh wow, this isn't really like a big portion. That's usually because in cookbooks, salads are made to be sides, but I like to make my salads just as like one big bowl because sometimes you just want to fill up on a nice hearty salad, right? So you're gonna add your almonds, and then to give it some citrus and to make this like a nice, summery, fun salad, I'm adding canned mandarin oranges. Now, of course, you don't have to get canned. If you want to get fresh, by all means, get fresh. Are there even frozen mandarin oranges anymore, Sarah? Do you know?
I'm not sure, actually. We can definitely figure that out, though.
I don't think so.
Yeah, because
I'll check while we're on here. I'll check.
It might be kind of like a weird consistency, huh, if you're like frozen. But for simplicity's sake, I like to use canned mandarin oranges, and what I do is I always rinse them just to get any sort of extra sugars or juices or whatever may be in the can from like the preserving process. So again, they're already, voila, you just top them in here. And then to give it a good kind of like savory, bitter, nice flavor, we're gonna use red onion. And so I love using red onion for salads versus white onion, just because red onion has a nice, sweeter flavor. And it really kind of enhances and ties together all the other ingredients from the salad all into one. And so what I'm gonna do here is, for this recipe, what is it called for? One full onion. One full onion if you are serving 4, but if you're making a salad for yourself, or if you don't want to overpower your salad with onion, start with half, and you could always work your way up. I say this with all spices or any sort of like flavorings or roots. Start with less because you can always add more later, versus you can't really take away like cayenne pepper or something like that. So when I'm cooking or dicing onions, this is a nice little hack. A lot of people like to chop off the root, and I keep it on just because it makes for dicing a lot easier. So when you're gonna dice your onions here, you're gonna hold on to the root part. I hope you guys can see me because the screen's kind of far away a little bit. And you're gonna make little cuts leading up to the root, but you're not going to cut all the way through. So let me show this to you. This is the easiest way to dice your onion, because before when I would dice onions, it was hard to like keep it all together in place. So if you guys can see how I'm doing this, the root's here, and I've made slices lengthwise up to the roots, but not all the way. And so that way, when you start to dice later, your onion stays together and you don't have to worry about trying to like keep all parts of your slice together to turn them into dices. So that's just a little trick.
That's a good tip.
Yeah. And then to get the ultimate dice, you're going to cut in the middle, up halfway again, like you would with your slices. And you also want to make sure whenever you're like prepping any of your fruits, your veggies, your onions, your garlic, things like that, you really want to get good quality knives. And look at how easy it is now to dice. All you gotta do, dice, 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 chop this up, and you've got like a ton of diced red onion here. So, oh, and another little tip too, when you're cutting white onion, if you leave the root on, that prevents the enzymes and the compounds from releasing from the onion that makes you tear up and cry. So that's another reason to leave the root on. Little insider's tip. So we're gonna sprinkle this salad with this beautiful onion here, like so. Let me wash my hands really quick. Okay, and then our simple dressing is going to be about 1/4 of a cup of olive oil. I eyeball it and I just kind of drizzle back and forth on top of the salad. And then about 3 tablespoons of red wine vinegar. Just a quick little splash. And if you love vinegar, you can always add a little bit more. And then of course, you gotta top it off with some salt and some pepper to taste. Again, with salt, I add a little bit and then you can work your way up. And then also another thing I love to cook with is Himalayan pink salt. And Himalayan pink salt has a lot of added vitamins, minerals, iodine, all that good stuff. So if you're going to salt or add seasoning to recipes, Himalayan pink salt is a great ingredient to use. And you guys have it at Mariano's, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, totally.
Of course. So this recipe is naturally dairy-free, but if you do love your cheeses and you want to add a little bit of cheese and calcium to your salad, you can dice up some feta and add it there. So this is a great salad to entertain. Let me just show you up so you can see how pretty it is. Woohoo, different colors.
It's really pretty.
Yeah, different colors going on there. So if I'm going to be having people over for, oops, I made this too far up. Sorry, guys. If I'm going to be having people over for, you know, like a brunch, a lunch, a dinner, or an outdoor event, I'm going to put it together like this before I mix it up, just so that it looks nice and presentable. And then right before serving, then you toss all your ingredients together just to make sure everything is really mixed up in there, the olive oil, the balsamic or red wine vinegar, all those ingredients. And this is actually a really great immunity boosting salad too, because you're getting vitamin C from the spinach, or yeah, there are spinach leaves in this, mixed greens, yes. And then vitamin C from the mandarin oranges. So you need that extra vitamin C to support that immune system of yours. And also healthy fats and vitamin E from your almonds. And this salad, just like as a little bonus, is a wonderful beauty boosting recipe as well, because all of these ingredients have amazing benefits for your skin too. Let me wash my hands again really quick.
Sarah, could you use balsamic vinegar in this recipe as well?
Oh my gosh, yes. You guys, you could be so creative with your dressings. You could also do a blend of like champagne vinegar with olive oil, balsamic vinegar. I'm sure you guys have this in stock there, but the thicker, like syrupy type of balsamic vinegar that's a little bit sweeter, that tastes really great in here as well. And again, this is just a really simple side salad. If I wasn't talking to you guys, this could be whipped up in literally 5 minutes. And if you want to add some cheese, even maybe some like a little bit of couscous or quinoa to this dish, you have a complete meal, and you have like a one pot salad that you would have for lunch or dinner, and then you're done. You don't have to worry about anything else. So that's our salad. Pretty easy, right?
It was great.
Yes. Okay. So now we're gonna move on to the main event here. I'm going to switch gears and switch up how I have this camera so that you guys can see everything we are doing to prep and to cut on the stove. So I'm going to move this camera like this for now, and then I'm going to angle it down when I'm prepping the peppers, so that you guys can see a really easy way to slice peppers, because I know a lot of times when you're working with peppers, trying to like de-seed it or get all the seeds out can be a real pain in the A, if you know what I'm saying. So we're gonna start by prepping all of our ingredients. Okay, I'm gonna angle this down. And don't mind any clutter in the background, because I have a 1.5-year-old and he's just, you know how that is. It's impossible to have like a spotless place and a child at once. Okay, so for this recipe, this is going to be a deconstructed hot dog or a deconstructed brat using Beyond Meat sausage. So this is the exact recipe that I've used in the magazine, and I love this recipe, and I actually love working with Beyond Sausage just because of the ingredients that they have in here. A lot of times you don't know kind of like what's in the ingredients in any sort of like alternative meat product, but here it's really pea protein, which is in all sorts of vegan protein powders, shakes. It's very, very popular, has a lot of protein per grams per serving, coconut oil, sunflower oil, rice protein, fava bean protein. It's all beans, and healthy grains. So, and it actually like tastes like bratwurst. I was very surprised the first time that I cooked with this, because as a child, I really truly loved having like the old school brats, the regular way, you know? And when I was vegan, it was something that I was craving. So when I cooked with this, I was like, wow, they actually nailed the flavor. So I'm just gonna unpackage those and set them aside. And then, so the recipe calls for 1 green pepper. But if you don't have a green pepper on hand and you only have a red pepper on hand, you can use that too. Or if you want to mix it up and use both peppers, be my guest. I mean, again, I'm all about intuitive recipes. You can mix things up, do what you're feeling, follow your cravings. It's that easy. So I, of course, washed these before. So my little trick for cutting these, and let me make sure you guys can see, is here's the top. I'm just going to cut straight through the top there. Set that top aside. I'm going to cut straight from the bottom. Set that bottom side. Oh no, this is an interesting pepper because usually they're a little bit more separated, but you know, you get what you get. So I just take my knife and I'm going to cut around a circle. Cut that core off. Like so, and then the core just pops out, and then you toss it in there, and then what you do is cut it in half again, and you barely have any seeds. You may just have a few seeds if your pepper is a little bit closer together at the core, but typically if you have like a nice separated pepper, you won't have many seeds left. And there you go. You don't have to worry about getting any seeds out or scooping any seeds or anything like that. So for this recipe, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying that's so easy to do.
Okay. So what I'm doing
It makes
here.
it look easy.
Yes. So I'm just going to cut some long strips here. And when you're cutting, just again, a little reminder, always make sure you're kind of curling your fingers under, because that kind of guides the knife and you won't hurt yourself. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do half green pepper and half red pepper, just kind of mix it up. And I'm also going to show you guys another cool little hack when it comes to caramelizing the onion and the pepper. And it's nice to make with red pepper, just because red pepper is a little bit sweeter. And when you caramelize onion, you're really kind of bringing out the natural sugar of the onion. Again, we're popping that core out, throwing it down the drain, cutting in half. I'm just going to throw this half to the side and slice this one in half. And I would say these are like maybe 1/4 of an inch or less slices. And so again, for this recipe, you are making it to serve 4. So I'm going to use all 4 brats. And then same thing with the onion. We're going to cut, and this is a big old onion. We're going to cut that onion in half here. And the cool thing about this recipe is you are actually cooking the vegetables and the onion in a separate pan from the brats. So if you're thinking like, oh my gosh, using a whole onion in this recipe is a lot, we're actually going to caramelize the onion and the peppers, and it will act as a great topping to all sorts of other different types of recipes. Let me do this. I just checked the time and oh my gosh, it's already 1. Wait, what do we have until 2:30 or 2?
2:30 is good.
Oh, thank God. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to do this in 9 minutes.
We've got time.
Thank you, Jesus. Okay. So I'm just going to cut a little bit here so you can see. But what I've done is I cut half an onion and then I just made slices all the way through. and then you can see how your onion kind of separates naturally. So when I throw these in the stove, they're going to be separated. And again, the trick worked. As you can see, there's no tears in my eyes or anything because I left these roots on, and that prevented the tears from coming. So really, when we're going to prep for this recipe, is all you really have to kind of slice and dice. The mushrooms here are already sliced, so you don't really have to worry about that. If you have whole button mushrooms or shiitake mushrooms, you want to just kind of slice those or chop them. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? Because you're about to eat it anyways. So let me make sure you guys can see here. We're going to start off by caramelizing our onion. Okay. So we're going to use olive oil again. And we're going to heat our stove, our skillet here, to about like medium heat. And I put, a pretty decent amount of olive oil because we're going to caramelize these onions, and we're going to add in the peppers first to kind of get those caramelized as well. And so we're going to wait a minute for this.
What's your favorite olive oil, Sarah?
Oh my gosh, actually the Colvita olive oil. I remember, what did we do? We did this is the type Colvita.
Okay.
I love it just because it's extra virgin. So quick little tips with olive oil as this heats up. I always look for cold pressed extra virgin, because when it's cold pressed and extra virgin, you are maintaining the integrity of the antioxidants and all of those other nutrients. So always look for cold pressed and extra virgin. And you can kind of tell the difference between what's extra virgin and not, because there's a lot more of like a dark green vibrant color, where like I have this olive oil, I don't know if you could tell, but it's like a lot lighter in color. And I think this is like a generic. I like went down to the 7-Eleven because I was strapped on olive oil one day, and that's my backup olive oil. But this is the real deal olive oil. So we're gonna wait for this to heat up a little bit. Usually you can tell when your pan's heated up because the olive oil just kind of goes back and forth really easily. So what I'm gonna do now is bring my little goodies here so you can see. Oh man, okay. So I'm gonna separate these onions and throw these onions in. And again, I have this on about medium heat. You don't want the heat to be too high because you don't want to cook the onions too fast and burn them. So when the heat is at kind of like between low and medium, and this all really depends on your stove too, just the strength of your stove. You want to make sure that you have a medium heat, because then that helps them caramelize at a really, really nice rate. Okay. And usually to caramelize onions, you have to allow it about like 10 minutes, but for time's sake today, I might speed up the process a little bit if I can. I don't know if I can, but I'll try. Maybe I'll just make less and you'll get the idea. Let me add just a few more. Here. Yeah, I think that's what I'll do. I'm using about like a quarter of white onion here to caramelize them. And you can typically use half or a whole onion. Now, if you notice that the olive oil is starting to simmer a little bit too much, I'm going to turn the heat down so that, again, you're not cooking your onions too fast. Here we get a spatula. I'm using a wooden spatula today, easy peasy. Can everybody see the skillet okay? You can see it well.
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay, I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit more. Okay.
Sarah, I like your pan. The blue color is really pretty. Is it blue?
I know. I always try to get some pops of color going on in my life here. especially now lately in Chicago, we're having like more winter months than summer months, and it's always rainy and gloomy. It's just like, what the heck is going on here? So with caramelizing these onions, here's another little hack that I'm doing. To speed up the caramelization process, you can always add vinegar, balsamic vinegar or red wine vinegar, or you can add a little bit of sugar, like a teaspoon or two of sugar. So when you're caramelizing onions, the caramelization process brings out, as you know, the natural sugars in onions. But if you want to enhance the flavor a little bit and just help with the caramelization process, you could sprinkle a little bit of sugar over it. And I usually don't cook with sugar because, I'm trying to be healthy up in here. But sometimes, especially this summer, a lot of us want to celebrate life and indulge and enjoy ourselves. Sometimes you just got to add a little bit of sugar. This isn't in the recipe, but it's just a nice little hack to have on hand in case you want to make caramelized onions for any other type of recipe. What I was saying before was, if you make a large batch of caramelized onions, you can save leftovers, even with the peppers too. You could save the leftovers. You could put them in like salads, in wraps, in sandwiches. You could add them to like your omelet the next day. There's a lot of really great ways to reuse these. And for this specific recipe, the caramelized onions are a really great way to add nice flavor. So what I'm gonna do now, just for time's sake, is add these peppers, these pepper strips. Again, I'm not adding all of them. I just wanna kind of create what your completed recipe will look like. So we're gonna add these two. We're gonna wait for this to kind of start to cook down. And so while we're waiting, I'm gonna bring this camera back over here. Okay, while we're waiting for that, we're going to cut our sausages now and cook with our sausages. Now, it's always important to know too, when you are caramelizing something and you're intentionally trying to cook it a little bit slower than you normally would, you always want to just kind of keep an eye on it as you're prepping other ingredients. So for our brats here, if you can see them, yep, we're just gonna make like little dices, or not dices, little slices. They're about like 1/2 inch, I would say. Okay. And I guess these are a little bit different than your average deconstructed brat, because usually the deconstructed version has a whole brat, but so that we can really kind of mix together the flavor of these brats and the flavor of the onion and the peppers and whatnot, I like to cut them just so that you can soak in flavor on each side, because I'm all about the flavor. Okay. And then another thing I love just that I'm able to kind of demo how to caramelize onions is, a lot of people think that that's kind of an advanced skill you need to know when it comes to caramelizing onions, because you're like, oh my gosh, it seems like it's, on low heat for a very long time. You need to do this and that, but it's really just cooking your onions on low heat for 10 minutes and calling it a day. It's not a very advanced technique at all. So I don't know if you can see, but the onions are kind of translucent right now, but once they start browning, I'll show you one that's pretty well caramelized in a minute. They'll turn more golden brown, and that's how you'll know that they're starting to caramelize. And then eventually, if you let this cook long enough, the peppers will start to caramelize too, and really just kind of soak up all the natural sugars and a little bit of, the added sugar I did too. So while that is cooking, we're going to add these brats to the second pot, or the second little skillet I have here. and get that started. We're gonna add just a little bit more olive oil. And I know on the package of the Beyond Meat, it says to cook them about like 3 to 4 minutes on each side. Since these are cut up, let me make sure you can see this. Since these brats are kind of cut up and sliced already, I would say give it about the same amount of time, maybe less, but what is a really good indicator to know that these are cooked is that the outside will be crispy. It'll start to crisp, almost like a real brat. And I think it's because Beyond Meat has like a special brat encasement that they use in this formulation too, that you use on regular brats, that helps kind of keep everything together and help it achieve the crispiness. So we're letting these caramelize a little bit more. And I would say all in all, this recipe should take no longer than 30 minutes to make. The longest part of this recipe is really just caramelizing these onions. And I don't know if you can, let me see if I can get 1 or 2 of these. This one looks pretty caramelized. But the caramelized onions, you'll know is that they will be very tender, very loose, kind of like shoestring potatoes where they're just kind of golden crispy, very limp. So you're gonna let these, if we're going to caramelize these fully, you would let these simmer, I would say maybe like 4 more minutes. But for time's sake, I'm going to add the mushrooms now. And I wash these before. You want to make sure you're always washing that produce. I'm gonna add these mushrooms, these beautiful mushrooms.
Sarah, how do you wash your mushrooms?
Oh goodness, I just put them in a colander and just rinse them really well. I know that there's all sorts of, different produce wash you can use. Sometimes if I am working with mushrooms, a lot of times packaged mushrooms are like pre-washed. They've already given them an initial rinse. So I'll just make sure they're rinsed really well. If I'm working with whole mushrooms, then I will actually go individually each mushroom and kind of make sure there's no mud or dirt on there. Because a lot of times, oh, now you can see this is starting to cook good. A lot of times when you're just working with like fresh whole mushrooms, there's still dirt on the outsides of them, especially the organic ones, which is, it's good, but you want to make sure you get all that off. Because even with organic produce, there's still organic pesticides and whatnot that they use on there. I know that there's like a natural kind of like produce washing solution that you can make that uses vinegar. Have you heard of this, Sarah or Amanda? Like the natural type of produce wash solution using vinegar and yeah. I think it's
we
just
sell some too in the stores.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I just saw also it extends the life of a lot of produce as well. If you wash it with vinegar and then lay it out to dry, that quite often it will help to extend the life of your produce too.
Definitely, yeah. I know I used to use, I forget the brand name of the produce wash I used to use. And I think I actually got it from Mariano's, but unfortunately I don't live walking distance from a Mariano's. So I haven't gotten it in quite some time, but if you're going to be mindful about washing your produce, which you should, and you don't have the time to try to figure out, like what type of at-home solution I'm gonna make, then always just find one. I'm sure there's one like in your produce area, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so we're getting cooking here now. As you can see, the brats are starting to boil and cook up there. And really not too much time has gone. And you want to make sure that you're just always, and this is also on medium heat, okay? You want to make sure you're always just kind of stirring them around, making sure they don't get too stuck to the bottom. You want to stir these around too. Let's see, one of these is caramelized now, just so that you guys, I'm sure you all have seen a caramelized onion, but it's just like very loose and thin, and it'll look nice and golden. So we're really just kind of being mindful and making sure that we're stirring both pots, just so that they don't stick to the bottom. And if something seems like it's cooking too fast, you can always turn down the heat. And then for this pot, we're going to add about 2 teaspoons of paprika. I'm eyeballing it here, and I'm just like, whoop, 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 sprinkle, sprinkle. And then we're gonna add 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. Sprinkle, sprinkle. Again, less is more. Start with less, add more if you need to. I love the flavor combination of paprika and garlic just because it's very, very grounding and wholesome. And if you do actually have fresh garlic cloves on hand, what you can do is take like maybe 2 or 3 garlic cloves and smash them with a knife and peel them, of course, and then just add the whole garlic cloves in this pot just because the aroma and the flavor really, really gets in there very nicely. And whole garlic cloves are actually another great immune boosting root and flavor to add to your dishes. So isn't it wild how this is like plant-based, but it's cooking as if it's like a real broth? It's like sizzling, it's browning and all that stuff. I don't know how they do it, but they do it somehow. So we have these flavors going on there. Oh, and I just realized, oh my gosh, I just realized that this recipe calls for coconut oil instead of olive oil. So the reason why I chose coconut oil for this recipe is coconut oil, when you are cooking with it on heat, has a higher smoke point. So if you're cooking with something on high heat, which this one is like medium to low heat, it's not too high. The broths are kind of getting up there, but the coconut oil has a higher smoke point, which means it's easier to cook with at high heat. It's not going to evaporate and create like a smokiness. And there's studies on everything. There's studies that contradict everything, but there's also studies that kind of validate that olive oil should be used more for like salad toppings, or like completed recipes, just so that you maintain that integrity. And there's been a few studies showing that if you cook a lot with high heat and olive oil, it could release not so good for you compounds. I think I totally just kind of like blacked out and used olive oil in here, but coconut oil is the way to go if you're going to be cooking high heat. And it doesn't really like taste much different. I don't think it makes your recipes taste like coconut or sweet or anything like that. So as you can see, I hope you can see, these onions are pretty caramelized now, and everything else is cooking really good. I'd say these are cooked pretty good. So what we're going to do is transfer the chopped brat over to this main skillet, and then we're going to top it with some pepper, salt and pepper to taste. I love all my recipes really peppery, so I add a lot. And then with salt, like that's all I'm doing. I typically would not add salt to this recipe just because the brats already have, that salty flavor. And there's a lot of flavor in here from the onions and the peppers and the mushrooms and whatnot. So you don't really need to add much salt at all. I would say even make this with no salt and then add some to the finished product if you feel like you need to. Okay. So what we are going to do now is, this has been mixed, and let's see. This has been mixed and it's pretty well blended, and you can see like the nice contrast of the peppers and whatnot. This is going to be pretty much ready to plate. So I'm going to show you, there's just one more step here with this recipe.
Sorry, I want to interrupt. Maria is making this along with you, and she says that she got too much smoke so far with the olive oil, coconut oil, and avocado oil, cooking the Beyond Meat brat. What could I be doing wrong?
So too much smoke with all the oils?
Yes, that's what it seems like.
Yeah. I say she's either not using enough to fully coat the pan, and maybe the strength of the stove is really strong and the heat is a little bit too high. So really what happens when you are cooking with oil on heat is that it evaporates. And when it evaporates too quickly and the food is still cooking, that's when all the smoke kind of creates. So I would say first thing, turn the heat down because your stove might be super strong, and then add a little bit more. Well, to start off, add a little bit more oil. If you add oil now and it's already kind of reached that smoke point, there might be like like things combust. Or what you can do if you're already in a smoky situation, add just like a tiny splash or a little splash of veggie broth, and it'll kind of smoke up for a minute, but then it deglazes the pan, and then it won't really like burn your product. So typically when you get to a smoky situation, it means that you've cooked through your oil and now you're just like cooking the ingredients, if that makes sense. But a lot of times smokiness is a combination of not enough oil and too high of a stovetop temperature. Okay, so what I did now is I have a little serving dish here. I'm going to show you what I'm doing. I just don't want to burn myself. Okay, so I plated this, but let's say you're like gonna be making this for a party or to entertain or something like that. So you want to make sure everything is looking pretty. You can rearrange your peppers so that they're like neatly placed throughout. And then what you're gonna do, oh, and this is another reason why I didn't add, where did my feta cheese go? Oh, this is another reason why I didn't add salt to any of this recipe, because we're gonna top this with some crumbled feta cheese. And feta cheese, of course, already has a naturally salty flavor. So to garnish this, we're gonna add some crumbled cheese here across the top. And again, guys, I'm eyeballing it. Like, I'm not taking out a measuring cup, and I'm not putting all this cheese in a measuring cup and then adding it based on the measurement. Like, that's just an extra step, and a lot of us don't have the patience for all these extra steps. So you just like eyeball it and crumble it along there. And then another garnish that I'm going to use is Kalamata olives. And I have them in this cute little holder. And again, about a quarter cup, sprinkle them on top. This also adds some saltiness and some healthy fats. And there you go. So, if you could see this final product, I hope you can see it okay with my laptop here. Or you know what, let me just actually bring this up to you. It's nicely laid out with different colors, different toppings, all that good stuff. It pairs beautifully with a mandarin orange salad. So there's really great flavor combinations. You're getting the light and the citrusiness from the salad, and then you're getting more of like that comfort summer grilling food without the carbs. And again, I just realized this is like a total gluten-free, grain-free meal right here. You don't have to worry about any type of carbs. If you want to have a carb, oh my gosh, you guys could get like either tortilla shells or a pita bread, and you put this deconstructed brat in there and like have a little pocket, or just get it put in a regular bun. But if you're trying to be mindful of your grain consumption or carb consumption, beautiful deconstructed brat, simple summer salad, complete meal if you ask me. And how much time did this take? 45 minutes? It would have taken less time if I wasn't, gabbing and showing you different hacks and whatnot. So I would say you'd have like a complete meal done within 30 minutes. And even while you are caramelizing your onions and working on the stove, you can then simultaneously work on your beautiful salad. Really. That's it. That's the cooking class. I hope you guys enjoyed and you learned a few new things. Maybe some health benefits too of what you've got going on here. And that's that. Do we have any questions, Amanda or Sarah? Are we all good to go?
Yeah, we have one more question. What's your favorite brand of feta from Susie?
Oh, so it's not typically my favorite brand. It's more so my favorite type. So when I eat dairy, I try to go for dairy sources that come from sheep or goat milk. So a lot of us have sensitivity to dairy that comes from cows just because you never know, there may be added hormones or whatever compounds are used in the process of getting milk from a cow may be what's irritating us. And so the milk from goat and sheep is not as processed as cow's milk, and the type of dairy enzymes that are in there are a little bit more gentler on our GI tract. So I like to have the feta that's in water, the brined feta, and I always try to look for sheep's milk feta from Greece or Bulgaria. Do you guys have any Bulgarian feta products?
I believe we do.
Yeah. So I'll do either like Greek feta or Bulgarian feta, but sheep's milk. So sheep's feta, and it tastes just the same as cow's milk, same salty flavor, but it's a little bit gentler on your digestive system if you feel like you do have a dairy sensitivity. So I hope that helps and gives some guidance. It's not necessarily about the brand, it's more so where's the milk coming from.
Okay, got it. And then Maria also has another question. Has anyone ever tried Violife feta, which I have not. I'm not sure if you have.
I have not tried Violife feta, but I have Violife provolone cheese in my fridge right now, and I actually just heard of them not too long ago, so I've been experimenting with them. But do you guys carry the Violife feta at Mariano's?
I don't believe we do. It was just Maria had a question.
Oh,
So
okay.
is that a different type of brand, or what makes Violife different?
So Violife feta is actually vegan. So it's like a plant-based alternative. I have not tried it. And you know what? I've actually, through my 3 years of being vegan, the number one pitfall for me, and this was back before grocery stores and brands had just like an abundance of alternative cheese products available. Feta was the one like staple in my diet that I just like couldn't find. And I still can't find like a really solid alternative feta product that tastes like feta, just because feta is so unique. It's like salty and savory. So if anybody has tried Violife feta and they like it, let me know, because I'll try it too. I'm always trying to find ways to lower my dairy consumption because I'm addicted to dairy, let me tell you.
Right. Hard not to be.
I know. Cool. Any other questions, guys?
I don't think there are any more questions, but thank you so much for joining us, Sarah. This was really insightful. I liked a lot of your hacks and tricks and tips. And we'll make sure to send out an email again with all of the recipes and anything that we might have missed during the class. Just let us know. But thank you, everyone, for joining. And thank you, Sarah, and thanks, Amanda. And we'll see everyone next time.
Thank you, guys. And if any of you made this with me and you want to take a photo and post it on your stories or whatever, just tag me balanced_babe. That's my media platform. And I'll repost it and spread the love of our plant-based meals here. Thank you so much, guys, for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye.